Welcome to our Hannover Messe live session today to the topic of how generative AI can transform manufacturing for a resilient future. I'm happy to have with me today Britta Mittlefehldt, Director and Head of our Smart Factory, and Chris Steidle, AVP at Salesforce and Head of Manufacturing Germany. And I would say, let's start directly into the discussion. Let's start. So Britta, we do have all around here, everywhere, everyone is talking about AI. But what are actually the challenges manufacturing industry is currently having? And is AI the only topic manufacturers should focus on today?
So I think you have to kind of like see this in a little bit of a broader picture. So we recently published a study on European manufacturers in 2030, and there were a couple of drivers that would change and drive the way how the industry goes. But we basically identified two that are important, especially for this round here today. One is operations, and the other one AI. And when you kind of like dig deeper into those topics, then you can see that there are certain uncertainties, topics, where we know that they will happen, but know when, that will drive that for us manufacturers. So the first one is actually that technology cycles accelerate so much so that we can really just say technology will drive strategy in the future and not strategy will drive technology, which is a huge shift in mindset for a lot of us. Another topic is that we know that that software providers will be more imminent for like the ecosystems we work in, that they will be more important for our work. So we have to think about how do we collaborate in the future in a better way with them. For manufacturing itself, we know that software-defined company, software-defined manufacturing is something that will be more important, and it's happening already right now. And all this in the uncertainty that we don't know if in the future our customers in Europe or wherever, if they are still willing to pay a premium for products that are made here. So what we see right now is our clients have to drive this transformation that's driven by technology, and they have to reduce costs. And and this is where AI and GenAI plays a crucial role in really enabling this.
Yes, thanks, Britta. And transforming, saving costs, one of the big topics that is always coming up also in our client discussions. Chris, from your side, looking into Salesforce vision about the manufacturing industry, it involves a lot of data and AI. So how do you actually see how those technologies will transform manufacturing in the future?
Well, Thorsten, you know us quite some time, and since 26 years, Salesforce has been in the customer centricity space, right? So we help our customers to connect with their customers in a whole new way. Now, what we do in manufacturing in that regard is we help our customers modernize their commercial operations, transform their service experience, simplify partner engagement, and of course, translate data into action. And in manufacturing, as you just stated, there's a lot of data, right? Just, the business model, the value chains that we are looking at, from R&D to through production, quality management, service, field service, there's a lot of data. Just think about the IoT and all this sensor data that's flowing in. Now, the most companies that we deal with today, they're struggling with that all this data sits in different places. It's disconnected. It's hard to access. It's not integrated. And then, it's difficult to derive any actions or make decisions based upon that data or, get any value from AI. So this is at Salesforce, what we're now looking at is for helping our customers unlock that trapped data, integrate customer, product, asset data, and also commercial data, and bring this all together to help them realize the value from AI and make decisions quicker and faster.
Yeah, okay, great. And we also have put a lot of efforts in the last years in projects. Talking about customer 360, collecting a lot of data, as you said, with the customers. But how exactly are you now helping your clients to transform and to really get the most out of the data and make data-driven decisions? So
Well, when we think about AI, we think about it in three categories, right? So we think about it in generic, industry-specific, and differentiating use cases. And I think that's an important part because, just think about it, generically, a lot of people start with this topic around asking the AI a question, right? So last year at Dreamforce, we introduced an agentic layer to our platform that we call Agentforce. And this Agentforce is now what we see at the pivotal point where agents, autonomous agents, can complement human workforces in a way that's unprecedented. So we're looking at growth, productivity, efficiencies at scale like it's never been there. And bringing that to life, we call this the digital labor revolution, where humans and AI work together like they've never been able to do this before because the technology gives us the possibility to think about it that way.
And you know what's the interesting part here? On Sunday at the opening ceremony of the Hannover Fair, it was stated that we are probably the last level of managers who actually had a workforce that was purely human. So we're kind of like all the managers that will be afterwards will have mixed workforces of like AI and human. So I thought that was really interesting. It completely goes into what
absolutely. It's kind of like what Mark said at Dreamforce and after Dreamforce. I think he said it on I think he coined the term digital labor revolution on a podcast. I think that's what he told us a few weeks ago. And it's around this, figuring out how AI and people work together. That's really driving conversations right now.
Yeah, thanks. And now we heard about those, I would say, magic agents, right? Which are taking over some work, which can also actually increase efficiency and so on. But Britta, where do you see already some practical examples where AI is transforming manufacturing processes?
I mean, so yes, of course. I mean, so and I think we already see right now, for example, closed loop cases. So let's, for example, imagine a filling process. So in the past, you always had to set your machine to a certain degree that was at overfill because you wouldn't want to send not enough of the product to your customers. So now with AI, we are actually able to constantly calculate the perfect fill line. So that the machine would basically, in a closed loop, calculate how much do I actually have to fill now in order to deliver the right amount, which means that we can reduce the amount of products that we, for example, ship for free or that goes to waste. So to make something very, very concrete. Another thing is, of course, where AI already supports our workforce, which is the typical and chatbots, I think, not enough. So which is really the intelligent operator friend who can already tell you which of my machines is right now not delivering at the plant level. So what could be the reasons for this? Who could help me with fixing this? So I think there are already a lot of solutions at scale in place at our clients, and I think this is only the beginning. Because where we are right now at is that we have a lot of incremental improvements in terms of traditional lean. So I'm an engineer, I come from the lean world where we just say, okay, so we save here 3%, there 4%. But the next level will be that we really completely change the way how a process works in manufacturing. I'm really excited to see when this one goes into place.
Yeah, and Chris, I mean, anything to add from your side? Any practical examples you would have for this?
Yeah, I mean, of course, what we see is that we have, again, the three categories: generic agents, we have industry-specific agents, and we have differentiating agents that we put those AI use cases into the different categories. Now, what you need to understand is that with the agents in a generic field, think about a service request that you get about a product or an asset, right? A lot of people collaborate to fix a problem for a customer. So some of the people in the organization come to that party much later, right? So a lot of information, a lot of collaboration, a lot of communication has been added to this. And now imagine now you're coming late to that party and you get a summary. It gives you like a head start to get all into what's happened and how you now can contribute to the resolution. And I think that's a big one. It's simple things, but it has a big impact already. But that's a very generic thing to do. Another thing in the sales operations space is that a lot of our customers still get emails, and some of them even faxes, right? So they that somebody needs something from them. So just think about the orders coming in unstructured ways. Now, an AI picking that up and translating that into an order form, a document that then can be run by a person to then actually do something on that. That's like next level, right? But it's still very generic. So in the industry context, what we see a lot is that companies put like an FAQ agent at the beginning. So they feed it all this information, product documentation, service history, maybe the bill of materials and the customer data and all this. And then it starts answering questions, maybe on a website, maybe on an application and all this. So that's all there. And then, of course, that's more industry specific. But, to take that really into the differentiating space, some of our customers go the whole 10 yards around the notion of what's the asset lifecycle management processes and journeys that we could look at, and where we can, add agents to the mix to bring that to life, to personalize on a completely new level. At the same time, also create new possibilities to create services revenue.
Yeah. So we're actually, agents creating both like a better customer experience, but also creating more revenue, right? So that's, what you are describing, I think. So from that perspective, looking into it, also what we just learned all about AI and AI-driven agents. I think there's one thing which I noticed this year as well. I think if we look into last year's Hannover Messe, there was a lot of talk about sustainability, importance of sustainability. We also have many clients that actually incorporated that into their strategic goals. Currently, we heard that in the beginning, we have cost pressure at our clients to remain competitive. Nevertheless, what's your view, Britta, on that one? So how do you do manufacturers balance out, let's say, those challenges about, having investments into AI, having investments into sustainability, having the cost pressure part? Is there...
So in my opinion, it's not really a contradiction, because I think ideally you produce in a resource optimized way. And if you do this, then you basically, save on energy, so save on materials, etc. So I don't really think it's a contradiction there, to basically focus on cost optimization and at the same time focus on optimization in terms of sustainabilities. So while I think the priorities change slightly, the outcome could still be the same, and it's only the outcome that really matters.
Okay.
Great.
Cool.
Yeah.
And Chris, from your side, do you have any example on, if you now look into the topic of resilience, do you have an example how AI can also improve resilience in the manufacturing space or in the manufacturing area?
Yeah, I think ever since COVID, we've seen a lot of VUCA management coming back into the conversation, right? So uncertainty is becoming the new norm, right? Everybody has a lot of influences that we see. Just recently talk of the town, we're looking into tariff agents, right? Because, it's an important thing, like all those supply chains are changing around the world. Like, where do I get my goods? What does a tariff has as an implication? And those tariffs, it's very complex what it does to a manufacturing company in the supply chain, right?
It's like one of the other key drivers that we had in our study.
Yeah.
Changes.
You need to get your head around what is the root of your products. If you're like a supplier of component, it's different. If you're just supplying parts to somebody, where do you get your parts? Where do you get your materials? Where do you get your system or the entire product, right? Now, having an AI looking at like the new regulations, the new rules, and quickly browsing through and having like an impact analysis on where do you need to adjust your calculations, your routes to market, your supply chain. I think that's where we really see a massive benefit, because decision makers need to act fast, but it's an enormous amount of data and complexity that goes into the decisions on what needs to be changed.
Completely agree.
Looking into these tariff agents, it sounds a little bit complex for me. Listening to it, can you give a little bit more details? How does that look like, or how does it?
Well, absolutely. So what we see is, especially in some parts of the world, we have documents of like all the different items that have a tax and the tax is changing, or a customs that's changing. And it's a couple of thousand pages, documents, and 20,000, 30,000 items that go onto this list. Having an AI browse through and say, those 5 you need to have a look on, and you might be affected, right? That's a very basic starting point. And then you factor in, your calculation, your supply chain information, your information about all the different suppliers you have. And the more data you made accessible to this, then the better you can get recommendations. You get maybe a workflow that's handing off, a decision to somebody to say, okay, those are the 5 things I need to be looking at, and those are the decisions that are implied by this change. So this is what we're looking at here.
Okay, interesting. And it's also, I think one thing we now heard over the whole conversation is it's also about data, right? It's about data quality, having the right data. But I mean, that's for sure one of the key success factors we have in the future. But are there any others? I mean, question to both of you. So do you see any success factors which manufacturers now need to focus on?
You want to start?
Well, from my perspective, I haven't seen anything like what's happening around us right now. And I've been in the space for 20 years, serving the manufacturing industry. But what we see right now is kind of like a gold rush around data, and AI takes that to a whole new level. When we look at this, I think it's 3 things that we need to be focused on. First thing is, don't DIY your AI, would be a piece of advice for many different reasons, cost and security being one of them. The second thing is, focus on what differentiates you. That's also, it's easier said than done, but I think it's extremely important that you're not going into the generic route for too much, because that's not where differentiation lies. And third, as you said, this is the last generations of companies and CEOs to think about a purely human workforce. So we have to figure out how humans and the AI work together as one team. And that's going to, impact the business model. That's going to impact the operating models. There's a lot of change that comes with that. But hey, we should be all excited about this.
Yeah, and I think that's a perfect word. I think we should be excited about this. And I think this is what I would advise everyone who is kind of like thinking about implementing agents and other AI solutions. It's an exciting opportunity to really change the way we work, change the future of manufacturing, and we should embrace it and be excited about it.
Yeah. And I think we all agree, I mean, AI probably is vital for transformation of the manufacturing industry. Is there one last point or one thing you would say that's really the key to successfully integrate it? Is there one thing you would still like to mention to bring up? Is there anything?
No, I mean, so I think we just perfectly summarized it up, right?
Well, I would have one more thing.
One more thing.
One more thing. And so if you think about the whole data and AI topic, it's a little bit like investing for me personally, because first you need to understand the basics, then you need to try out and iterate and see what works, what doesn't work. But it's a little bit like with, AI is like compound interest. You cannot make up for the time like when you start too late to invest. So if you cannot make up for time, you better get started and figure those things out, because those models need to be trained and they need to learn to become more effective over time in the context of your enterprise, your company. And you know what? You're not in this alone. So Deloitte and Salesforce are here to help.
Thank you very much.
Yep. Thanks. I mean, thank you both. I mean, for sharing your insights. I mean, it was great. I mean, having you today. Thanks for the interview, and yeah, really thank you. And looking forward to the transformation that you described.
All right. Great. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for having me too.